Hello everyone, my name is Natalia Girolamo and I'm a technical program manager for AWS. Today we're going to be talking about how to get enterprise in the cloud and how to do cloud management with AWS. Hope you like the session. The agenda for today is this one. So we're going to start talking about some of the challenges that are involved when you're thinking about enterprises using AWS, some of the reasons behind they might want to do it. Then we're going to pave away a path forward for those companies, how they can actually start with a strategy, implement a multi-account environment, and take advantage of some of AWS services that are related with cloud management. Between them, we're going to focus specifically on the well-architected AWS Control Tower, AWS Trusted Advisor, and AWS Cost Explorer. So I hope you enjoyed the session. So to start with, let's talk about some of the reasons why you should be thinking about moving to AWS, or actually just taking more advantage if you're already a customer. So talking about motivation, we used to have that struggle between builders wanting to stay agile, and on the other hand, you have all the folks involved with cloud and IT governance. So it used to be some sort of power struggle between those two sides. On one hand, of course, you want to enable your company to stay agile and keep innovating and just make the most of the speed of AWS. But on the other hand, you want to do it in a way that it's actually safe for your company based on legal grounds and also on compliance. So you sort of need to find this fine balance in a way that you can keep innovating, but innovating with governance and doing everything in scale. So that's why we're going to talk a lot about how you can actually keep business agility and governance control all together. So with AWS, you actually don't need to choose. Usually, or should I say, like some time ago, you would need to make some choices in here. It's not a trade-off anymore. You get to stay agile at the same time as moving with security. And the reason why you're actually able to do that, it's because we have provided a list of services that can enable you to operate at scale, meanwhile keeping control and governance. And that's because you get to set all sets of policies, access control, and everything involved with security logs. You get to do it in sort of a master or management account, and you get to deploy that to all the accounts involved within your AWS environment. I'm gonna talk a little bit more in detail about this multi-account strategy, but you can have both of the best of both worlds right now. So you get to have governance and keep your operation secure. At the same time, you get to have self-service and enable the folks on your organization to actually get the most benefits of AWS. So considering that, you have agreed that indeed this is something that you need to do, like you want to use AWS or you want to take advantage of the cloud, could you just, spin some account and start building on it? The answer is you could, but AWS does not believe that you should do it in one account only, one single account. And that's the reason why we always advise towards a multi-account framework and why one account is not enough. So we're going to be talking about some of the reasons that you should implement a multi-account strategy. First of all, you have many teams, right? On your company, you have different organizations, different sectors, and pretty much almost often they are working on different projects or they have different priorities. Of course, you don't want them to be sharing the same resources, both because they don't need to, and secondly, because it can become really expensive and you get to maybe waste a lot of time and resources when you actually don't need to do it. So on that note, since they are different teams with different priorities from a business perspective, you want to keep it isolation, right? You want to have only the people who actually need it to have access to either services or data or any other information. Security and compliant controls. Of course, since those are different teams, they may be working on some confidential projects. So why should they be sharing one single account? That actually could create bottleneck and operational um, overload or workload for you and your system administration team. So you don't want to have everyone working together at the same time. It's pretty much like piling up everyone in one office. Like there's no need for it. There will be no resources for everybody. On that note, of course, billing. So each area may have a different budget to follow on, and then you want to be able to track if they are meeting those monetary goals, or if you actually need to shift some resources around. And that's why also having a multi-account strategy may be the best choice for a large group of teams, but to be honest, to pretty much everyone. And then business process, we already touched that a couple of times. So different teams, different organizations, different leaderships may have different ways of doing stuff, and then it just makes sense for them to be isolated from one another, but at the same time to be sharing some of your company legal prescriptions, or even the compliance, because that doesn't change depending on the team, right? Everyone should be following, say, the same marketing or industry rules. So that's why you get to define some sort of master policies and apply that to all accounts, and we're going to be looking into that in details in a bit. So then, now that you have decided that multi-account is actually the way to go, what should you be hoping to achieve with that? And that's what we're going to cover right now. So of course, automation. Every time that you have an environment with many accounts, it can become messy real quick. So it's important that you take it off pretty much all the manual stuff that you need to do, and you actually get to automate the better that you can. So there are a couple of stuff that you don't need to be doing, or your team doesn't need to be doing on a daily basis, like patching instances or doing some security checks. You can actually set this up in one master account and then get it deployed to all the accounts on your environment. That, of course, leads you to be scalable. You get to operate with heavy loads of traffic, and you get to escalate real quickly and even scale down if you want to. It's real easy to do it. It becomes a self-service environment where you can have your team deploying new accounts or even spinning up resources as they need to. But they can only do that because you have already established guardrails and not blockers. So what do we mean by that? So guardrails are actually a set of rules and policies. They are not, they are not showstoppers. They are not any barriers for your team to keep innovating and developing on AWS, but they are just a setting of configurations that you have previously defined, and every account in that environment should be following. Otherwise, they will not be allowed to perform the action. So that's actually a good compliant reinforcer. So that gives you a way to also make your environment auditable. So that means that your security teams and everyone involved with compliance will receive logs on all the activity, and that logs would be put on a centralized account. Of course, that all of that together working pretty much gives you a really flexible environment, and that's what we're going for and striving for with the multi-account strategy. So then, okay, so we know and we have agreed that the multi-account is the way to go for enterprises, but then there's lots of information all around about AWS services, and we get asked pretty much the same question: where should I start? What should I do next? Or where should I be reading for best practices on how to actually implement and putting all those things into practice, right? So the answer is the AWS Where Architected. We have launched the were architected tool back in November 2018 as a service. So you can actually go to AWS Console right now and access this as a service. It's free for all customers. But it was born as a framework. So there's the Were Architected framework, which is a white paper that lays down all the best practices when architecting on AWS. So even if you're starting right now to think about like the architecture of your system, or even if you already have many applications in production, it's definitely something that we advise customers to check it out, because it helps you to build and deploy faster. It also helps you to mitigate risks, because you get more familiarized with all the best guidance that you should be following, and helps you make informed decisions, in the sense that by performing a well-architected review, you actually uncover some improvement opportunities that maybe you haven't looked before, or for some reason it didn't got prioritized. So then, what it is the well-architected? So this framework was established based on 5 pillars. Those pillars are operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, and cost optimization. Those 5 pillars, we gather all the best practice from years of customer data and experience, and customers telling us what works and what does not work. And we also have put a lot of operational knowledge that we have inside AWS as well. So you pretty much go to the console, you open the architected tool, and then you perform a review, and you received back a set of improvement plans. So lots of actions that you should be implementing within your environment to make sure that you're following all the best prescriptions when architecting on AWS. So that's exactly where you should start, by making a well-architected review. So assuming that you've done there, you did your well-architected review, then to actually implement this cloud management on AWS, you need to create a landing zone. And just to clarify, because I know that landing zone sometimes can mean different things, on the scope of this presentation, of this session, every time I mention landing zone, I'm talking about a concept. And I'm talking about a secure, scalable, and multi-account environment that you can actually deploy automatically using a service on AWS called AWS Control Tower. So on the sequence, we're going to be talking a lot about Control Tower. But then that's what you need to do. Like you need to lay the foundations for your environment, for a secure way to do cloud management on AWS. And so that's why you need a landing zone. So that's pretty much, we like to call it as a starting point for every new development on AWS. And it's also a starting point for migrations, because that's where you put all your infrastructure resources. That's where you start to think, like, from the ground up, what do you need to do? So then, what's the easiest way of actually deploying a landing zone on AWS? The easiest way and the recommended way to do it is by using AWS Control Tower. This is a pretty much new. We launched it GA last reInvent. So this is a new service that offers the easiest way for organization, companies from all sizes to actually enable, provision, and operate cloud on AWS. And that's because you remember that in the beginning we were talking about motivations. So that's, with Control Tower, that's how pretty much you tied up all the agility that the builders on your team need, with also the reassurance that the governance folks will also require for you to move forward with new projects and experimentations. So the way that Control Tower works is that it set it up automatically a landing zone for you, and it then helps you and guides you through the establishment of guardrails, which, if you remember, those are not blockers. Those are just a setting of policies and based on roles that you need to set it up or configure once you're launching Control Tower. And once you define those guardrails, it helps you also centralize and to make it more secure your identity and access. So there's a way to federate access also using Control Tower. So it's a pretty strong governance offer from AWS. And so from a compliant point of view, it actually helps accounts provisioning real quick, because once you establish the guardrails and all those settings of rules, once it's there, you can always just go to Account Factory, which is a feature on Control Tower, and just deploy new accounts, and those new accounts will be following the guardrails that you have established previously. Okay, so let's take a look now on what the multi-account diagram should look like for your environment if you're actually deploying Control Tower as a way to get your landing zone set it up. So the way that we think about multi-account is actually we have AWS organization as the sort of foundational piece of it. So the first thing you need to do is think about organization. Organization allows customers to sort it out, structure, and organize their accounts based on groups that follow the same functional and same role. So the way that you should be dividing your accounts are within organization units. So those organization units that you see on the left hand, which is the green square, the organization unit are divided by roles and functional. So that means that you can have organization units, for different teams or even different roles within your organization or different purpose. So you can have organization units just for testing, or just for, we're going to talk more in depth later, but maybe for suspended accounts, you want to put together all the suspended account under one organization unit. That's the way to do it. So the way that we envision a multi-account strategy is that you would have always foundational organization units, which we recommend that you have one for infrastructure and one for security. And just a quick note for clarification. So on the screen, you should be seeing a blue square. So that's what I'm calling organization unit. So whatever you're seeing blue square, it's an organization unit. Whenever you're seeing a triangle, it's a account, like single accounts. So you can see that for each one of the organization units, you have a set of accounts attached to it. So you should have an infrastructure, which for that organization unit will have different accounts for shared service and network. And you also should be having like a security organization unit, which you would have different accounts for log archiving, security tooling, especially those two. Control Tower deploys automatically for you, so you don't even need to create. And so on the right side of the screen, you should be seeing all other organization units that should be created based on your business needs and based on what it is that you need to achieve from a business perspective. So what do I mean by that is you can either organize your other accounts in a sandbox environment, for instance. So you have organization unit for a sandbox where you have different builders working on different accounts. Each account has like a fixed spending limit, so they don't go overboard and spin up like multiple EC2 instance and your billing comes crazy. At the same time, they should be disconnected from your network, right? You don't want any of their experimentations to actually reach production. Or you can also have, like, as I mentioned, a suspended OU, where you would have all the accounts that you're about to finish or terminated, so all accounts closures. So what this gives you is actually a way that you could separate your resources, provide an isolated way for different teams to achieve their different business needs, Meanwhile, you also have your foundational organization units that will give you the stability of being able to escalate. So you have all your shared resources in just one organization unit, and all these other organization units on the right side, they would be accessing that shared account resources, but nothing in production would be sitting there. You know what I mean? You would have like completely and secure isolation of your environment, and that's super important, especially from a disaster recovery perspective. And that's why one account is simply not enough. You can see by this slide how it would be hard for you to manage if you would have all of these things combined in just one account. So that's how you should be thinking about multi-account. Okay. So then one question that we also get asked a lot is, okay, I think, customers often say, I understand the value of Control Tower, but I already have something like a lot of applications in production here at AWS. Can I use Control Tower with my existing environment? And the answer is yes. You can do it by either using or trying to migrate the accounts that you have individually to Control Tower. But you can always migrate the existing AWS organization settings that you have right now as well. So there's some QR codes on the screen. Feel free to dig deeper and learn more about the ways to do it. So here I just wanted to sort of sum up some of the Control Tower features, because that's really like a foundational way for enterprises, but really like any size company, to take advantage of AWS. So you have landing zone automatically deployed for you based on best practice. You also have IAM configurations already laid out for you, and you only get to choose like which guardrails are you going to establish. For governance, you also have Account Factory, as I mentioned, which is a setting that once you define the guardrails and the IAM roles on your management account within organizations, and then you get to pretty much put all that configuration and all that blueprint all across your other organization units and your accounts. So it of course gives you a lot of visibility to what's going on your environment. So thinking that you're already done with all the foundational steps of actually enabling a scalable environment on AWS, you need to automate some of the replies, right? Because just think that you have a lot of accounts, and you should be doing like the minimum amount of manual changes. So one way to do it, of course, is using Amazon Cloud Watch. This is a must go-to service in this case. Cloud Watch collects, monitors, acts, and analyze a lot of data from a lot of other services and resources on your account. And it pretty much deploys everything for you in a dashboard where you can track what's going on in your account. So here I just put some of Cloud Watch integration. I'm going to get into the deep of how Cloud Watch works, but there are a couple of helpful resources later on that I'll be sharing with you. So the way that Cloud Watch works, so it collects data from, as I mentioned, a whole lot of set of services. You have some on the screen, but it goes over 70 services on AWS, so it's a lot. For instance, VPC flow logs or EC2 instances. And then from those logs, you get to also collect Cloud Watch events, and those events triggers alarms for some services like Lambda to actually go there and remediate those risks or those anomalies for you without you even needing like to lift a finger. So say, think about like you need to I don't know, you need to patch some instance, and you just you create a CloudWatch event or create a rule for that. So whenever CloudWatch is collecting logs from System Manager and it picks it up that you need to be doing that patch, you could already have established that once that alarm triggers, a Lambda function gets triggered and does it for you. So you actually don't need to go in that specific account and do anything manually. So CloudWatch is a great way to have alarms and rules in place for you to get automation on your environment. Another way that it's a absolutely must go to, it's AWS Trusted Advisor. So Trusted Advisor is an application that also uses the best practices that we've learned from customers and from ourselves. So it works under cost optimization, performance, security, fault tolerance, and service limits perspective. And what it does, it's pretty much checks your account and gives you like some indication if you're okay, or if you're healthy, or if you should be looking into those checks more in details, because something just doesn't feel right. So it has like parameters, and based on those parameters it judges if this is something that you should be looking or not. So for instance, it can say that you're not utilizing 20% of the instance that you have run on your account, and then you can just go there and terminate those and not be paying. So that's one example. Or it can read from S3 access configuration, and it can give you like a red check. So that means that you need to take action and say, hey, you have a bucket open to the world. Go in there and work on that permission, so you don't have your data exposed into the internet. So that's another way to do it as well. So here's the Trusted Advisor dashboard. You get to see that you have like the green, the amber, and the red checks. So whenever you have a red check, definitely go in there, understand what's red, and Trusted Advisor actually tells you what it is that it's the mitigation action. So it's a pretty good thing to have if you're thinking about a multi-account and lots of accounts to management. So we need to talk about costs, right? We've been talking from pretty much half an hour about how you can scale and how you get to use all AWS resources and automate those. But then at some point you will get billed for it. So how you can make sure that you stay on top with your billing. You get to use Cost Explorer, which is pretty much a data visualization tool. So it's not going to take any action for you, but it's going to give you a lot of visibility on if you have anything that's being like a waste of resource, or can help you even forecast your billing for the upcoming 6 months based on the services that you've been using. It pretty much gives you a breakdown of your costs on AWS. So here's how you would see it. You just go to your account on the upper right corner, click Billing Dashboard, then launch Cost Explorer, and on the left, and you get to see like a breakdown of your spending on your account. Cool. So we've been talking about half an hour how to do all of this stuff, but I know that it can be a little bit overwhelming, so I just want to do a quick wrap it up. If you forget everything that I've been talking about, I just want you to remember that there are phases. You will not be doing all of this at once. And so phase one, it's what we call foundation. Just make sure that you do your well-architected review, you set it up your control tower, you have your management account working, and then you do everything pretty much to secure your management on AWS, and then you get to scale and do other things like networking, which is the next one. So you notice that I left networking separated because this is something really important, and the way that you set it up, your network design, can impact the way that your applications interact with each other, and the way that your customers are or aren't able to get the most of your services. Security, this is step 3, but honestly, security is job 0 for AWS. We believe that security is our top priority, so you should be looking for ways to make it secure all the way through, with guard duty at the security account, and also enable on all the other accounts that you're working on. Security Hub, which is a great way to centralize all of your security findings, and even WAF. So I just put it as a separate bullet, but to be honest, like, security is a part of every step of the way. And then automation. So once you feel confident that you have everything work in place, just try to see if you can get a little bit of the overhead of your team. So automation is really important on that way, so you can create new products easily and do your deployment in a CI/CD manner, making sure that you're following the security rules as well. Yeah, so I think this is it. Hopefully that was helpful for you. Here are some helpful resources that you get to learn a little bit more depending on your interested and business needs. Hopefully you like it, and thank you so much for watching reInvent.